Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Talk with Tia and Jill. We're super excited for today's conversation.
We are. Welcome, everyone. We're glad to have you with us. And you can see we have a special guest that's joining us today. Hello, Shahram. We'll introduce you to our audience in a few moments.
Hi,
Yes,
Jill. Hi, Tian. Hello to all your audience. I'm very happy that I'm here and excited.
yes, we're excited. We're excited to talk more about quality management system and really thinking about it from a modern lens
Hmm.
of how do we work within a QMS system today.
Yeah.
So,
And even the importance, Shahram and I had just been talking before the show that, often QMS, especially in our food world, we think of it kind of along with like GFSI
Yeah.
principles and requirements, but really QMS is a much broader
Mhm.
system that's really meant to help with business.
Yes.
And so really thinking about like how does that actually like how do we look at it through that lens? And that's why Shahram having you here today, since this has been an area of your passion and experience, we're excited to share about this bigger view and this bigger lens with the audience.
Yes.
absolutely. Again, I'm very glad to be here. And I hope that all the audience are hearing us now or later. You're doing fine. And again, very excited to talk about this topic specifically. You mentioned that it's my passion, it's truly my passion. Quality, food safety, and also quality management system specifically is something that I have worked through the years and wanted to share some insights about that. So, going right into the topic, you mentioned how do we think about the quality management system and the modern quality management system,
Mm-hmm.
the principle-based quality management system. Before we do that, I did want to provide a definition of the quality management system because a lot of times, especially in the food industry, when we talk about the quality management system, people may think about HACCP or may be thinking about uh, GFSI, right? And while I think they are all components of the quality management system, I think it's important to set the stage and have a more holistic definition of the quality management system. The way that I define a quality management system, I say it's a set of business processes that would create uh, consistency to achieve the food safety, compliance, and customer requirements. So if you notice the definition that I provided, it focuses on the business processes.
Yeah.
It's not just HACCP, it's
Mm-hmm.
not just prerequisite program, it's
Right.
not just a component. So I think all of those are components of the quality management system. But it is very important that we bring up the quality all the way to the leadership, all the way to the top of the organization, and define that as a set of the processes that encompasses all of that.
Yes.
So, in my view, there are components of the quality management system that may be less seen in the food industry. And throughout our conversation today, I would like to emphasize some of those components and talk about when we talk about the principle-based quality management system, what are really those principles? And what are the areas that we need to ensure the quality management system, including our food safety management system, focuses? So,
Yeah.
does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
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 And that's part of why we're so excited to have you here today, because when we think about how to be the most effective at leading food safety and quality, it's how do we build systems to help guide and support our business goals? And that's really our role as leaders in these areas, to put these systems in place for people to work in these systems and to help improve these systems so that we have better outcomes together.
Yeah, and I love the way that you talk about it in the definition that you gave, that you're really looking at the full business process.
Mhm.
I think sometimes we get stuck in our own function, right? And we're looking at, okay, these are the pieces we need to manage. And we're kind of like, well, this is the information we need to go in. This is what I'm looking at. But we don't really necessarily take into account other business processes that's happening around us that also feeds into what our function might be interested in. And when I say function, I'm, obviously we do a lot of work in the food safety and quality space. That's the majority of our background. But like you said, other businesses also flow within that. So even if I was logistics focused, right, there's other business processes that flow into the work that they do as well. So that's one thing I love about your definition, is that it takes into account business, really.
Absolutely.
Well, and that was the original design. I mean, Shahram, I don't know if you know, like, where is it? My Duran handbook is right back here. And I don't know if that's one of your favorite, but that's been one of my favorite books for a long time. And it's all about business. It was never designed to exclude logistics or maintenance or sales. It was all designed to be an entire system for the business.
Yes.
And I think that's often misunderstood, and we've applied it just to these different areas of the business. So I think today, that's why it's so key to talk more about it.
Very good. So to build upon that, and I can't be, agree more on the points that you, Jill, and Tia noted, I want to bring a perspective today about the quality management system. And I want to invite you and your audience to think about, when we talk about food safety and quality management system, to think about these principles. So I want to introduce 7 principles for the food safety and quality management system. And allow me to talk just a little bit about those. So the way to look at those is, if you think about the food safety and quality management system that you have in your site and your corporate, do you see those 7 bold? Do you see those 7 defined? Do you see those 7 measures? So let's go right into that. The first component is customer focus. So no quality management system can last without having a heavy focus on the customer. Customer is the king. Ultimately, is the reason that we have the business. Without customer, we wouldn't have the business. So if you look at your quality management system, does it really start with the customer? And does it monitor the customer? For example, do you have a good system to see the feedback of the customer, whether that's a complaint, whether that's any other type of the feedback? Do you measure it? When you measure it, do you react to that? How well are you basically looking at the customer and customer focus? So that's the first element. The second element is leadership. And let me clarify that. Responsible leadership. So do you have responsible leadership? Do you think that the leadership is really committed about the quality? How do they show their commitment? Do they have any knowledge of the policies that you have? If you're working in the plant, do you really think that your leaders are going with you and then enforcing and coaching and mentoring those policies with everyone? So responsibility of the leadership cannot be neglected in any quality management system, because quality management system and food safety management system cannot last without the support of the leadership. The third component is engagement. Is how do people engage in the quality management system design and execution? It was not until a few years ago when the culture was more prominent in the food safety standards. But when we talk about a quality management system, I really don't see that any difference than the conversation that we have from quality culture. It has to be embedded into your food safety and quality management system, because documentation by itself doesn't work. Customer focus by itself doesn't work. Neither of these elements that I say by itself doesn't work unless you have the engagement from the team. So if you're thinking about your food safety quality management system, ask this question: are you the only person that is engaged? Are you writing the processes? Do you have a food safety team that helps you? Do people actually work as a team to deploy the food safety and quality management system? And if the answer to some of these questions are no, I think you should go back and rethink and really try to have a team-based approach from the engagement standpoint. Process approach is another element. So far we talk about customer, we talk about customer focus, leadership and responsible leadership. We talked about culture and engagement. And the fourth element is process approach. it's very important that we have the process approach when we think about the quality management system. And what does that mean? That means that every one of us are the customer of each other within the organization. The
Mm.
organization is made of different processes. You get the input, you have the output, and the output of your process or sub process is actually the input of another one. And
Yes.
all of these work in order to deliver the final product, the final outcome. So, how do we think about each other? If we think that there's a customer focus, we have to think of each other customer of each. We are really in the organization feeding each other.
Mm.
So it's important to see the organization that way. If you change something in your food safety quality system, it's going to change in other areas. If you change something in your maintenance, it's going to change other things. And
Mhm.
that's why it's important to think that way and engage others.
Mhm.
The fifth aspect is improvement. How do you deal with failures? How do you deal with preventions? How do you think about your root cause corrective action process? Are you really thinking that the system that you made is enough, or have you made and embed in that system protocols that can improve that system?
Mm.
So if you look at your quality management system, if you are firefighting every day and you never can get out of the firefighting, you really need to look at the foundation of your food safety quality management system
Yeah.
and think
Yes.
where
Here,
is
here, Shahram.
Right. Agreed.
so that is a very critical point.
Mhm.
Everything that comes with the continuous improvement, with breakthrough improvement, different methodologies of improvement really needs to be in the core and design and execution of the food safety and quality management system. So the sixth point is evidence-based decision. We all work in an environment where we have a lot of data. And if you are making any decision in the area of quality, food safety, you need to make sure it's based on the data. So think about that. When you decide, and decision is very important for a food safety and quality manager, are you deciding based on the data? Do you have the data available for you to decide? And later on in this podcast, we're going to talk about, digitalization and, innovation. So we come back to that conversation. But it's very important that the decision is not just based on chance, it's not based on luck. You don't want to be lucky in the area of quality. You want to be deliberate. And being deliberate just comes with getting the data, analyzing the data, and making your decisions based on it. And finally, communication and relationship management, stakeholder management.
Mm.
So that's really probably one that is underestimated, but it has the most impact. Who are the stakeholders? As a quality function, as the leader of the quality management system, are you really bringing the rest of the team, the stakeholders, into the picture and then talk with them and asking for them to be engaged, to feed the information and also their thoughts, and then be the advocate? So I think communication is very important, and it's very important to be deliberate. So if I look at the components of that I named, and I'll repeat it again, of those seven: customer focus, uh, leadership, responsible leadership, engagement, process approach, improvement, evidence-based decision making, and stakeholder management. I think if
Yes.
we look at our quality management system and it had all those principles, that means we have a principle-based, holistic quality management system.
Yeah. Sharon, this is fantastic because I feel like with these seven principles, and I love the way you broke them down, a lot of times people are in the situation where they have processes in place, but there's a failure and people don't realize, okay, what messed up in the failure? We have a written process. Why are people not following the process? Well, it's probably because one or more of the seven principles that you listed is missing, right?
Mhm.
You might have the process, but are people engaged in the process, right? Do you have the culture where people use the process every single time, or they feel connected to the process? Do you have the leadership? And I love that responsible leadership, right? Where
Mhm.
they are a part of the process. They're coaching, they're mentoring, they're looking for feedback. They're improving based on that feedback. And so I love the way you broke those down, because I see that if a process is failing, some of these other pieces are missing.
Absolutely. And remember, I didn't talk about hassle. I didn't talk
Right.
about food safety plan. I didn't talk about prerequisite program.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
yet I'm talking about quality. So, when Tia and I had a conversation about the quality management system and, we talked about principle-based quality management system, I think it's important to look at the quality as a holistic concept, as a
Mhm.
business process versus just the food safety. Food safety is absolutely critical. It's
Yeah.
absolutely important. But if you just focus on a component of the quality management system, the holistic view is not seen and the chance of success becomes very low.
Yeah. And Sharma, I'd say even with that, you know, are many of the symptoms we see because we try to apply QMS just to like quality function and
Oh,
food
yes.
safety function. And I think about if everyone bought into that we have this system and we have these processes for all of us to work successfully within, like how could life be different?
Mhm. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. This makes me think about just culture, right? And how we talk about food safety culture within the industry. We focus so much on the food safety aspect instead of the culture. And the culture piece is that engagement, right? It's that leadership. It's the communication, right, between all of your stakeholders, and even recognizing that each of us play a part of this QMS, right? It's not necessarily, and it's interesting, and I know we're going to dive into technology and how to kind of move in that space. But even when we look at technology that's out there and the way that they make them into like modules almost as a part of your QMS system, it's almost still in that mindset of like, you have this quality module, right? You
Mhm.
have this logistics module, you have this piece, and a part of it is probably just business setup for them. But for the business, for us to take a look and say, well, all of these pieces are a part of our business. How do we make sure that they're interacting with one another and that we have this engagement throughout the full business process and not just our small part of it?
Uh, exactly. And I think one aspect that I would like to emphasize is the concepts and the way that the food safety system is seen in the food industry haven't really changed much in the last few decades. We have some initiatives that we have seen that come and take a look at that. But I think it's very important to take a look from the perspective of the culture, from the perspective of the leadership, from the perspective of the customer focus holistically,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the necessity of today. And the same way that everything has changed, the same way that we are going into different waves of the industry revolution, the same way that our cell phones don't work the same way that it was 10 years ago, the same way that our lives are not the same as even 4 years ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. We have to think on the application of these systems that we have in place and ensure that they are, up to date and then they meet the demand of the era.
Yeah.
So again, we talk about that later in our podcast regarding the innovation and digitalization and modern quality management system. But if the quality management system is not holistic, if the quality management system is not principle based, it cannot even succeed
Mm,
in that era as well. So I
yeah.
think it's very important that the quality get escalated, quality management system get escalated uh, from the concept standpoint, from the leadership standpoint. And part of that is on us as a
Yeah.
quality professionals. We
Yeah.
shouldn't downgrade the food safety and quality management system. We should take it to the leadership. We have to, in my view, understand that a lot of times control and controlling more of the data and controlling more of the every component of the system is not actually going to work in our favor. It's actually has a reversed impact. So we have
Mm,
to,
yeah.
open our arms and then try to ask others to come along and
Yeah.
have a system that is encompassing with the engagement from everyone. Really.
Yeah. Sharon, I know a little bit about your background, but I would love for you to just even talk about a little of your background and the fact that you've worked in other industries outside of food. So I'm curious, share with the audience on that part of your background, but how you even see the difference between the industries around QMS and what does food have to learn?
Sure. So I started my career as an industrial engineer, and I worked for over 20 years, and majority of that now has been in the food industry. But for an uh, span of around 6 years, I worked in the car manufacturing industry, auto industry, and that's where I really got to know. Quality management system and quality assurance concepts. And the way that I learned that was basically through the lean manufacturing, through Six Sigma, and I engaged myself in Six Sigma projects. So the view that I have on the quality management system is really coming from that perspective. Now, later on, I educated myself certainly in the food industry portions of that, but my foundational view hasn't changed.
Yeah.
And I think that the view that I just shared with you, as far as those 7 principles, which is very aligned with the most prominent standards for the food safety and quality management system, is coming from there. I think that quality had a higher level at the auto industry, at the car manufacturing
Mhm.
industry.
Mhm.
It
Yeah,
was really it wasn't just a characteristic. It was really at the core of what they were doing. And when we talk about efficiency in the organization, when we talk about productivity in the organization, quality had a role. It wasn't just talking about how good a car looks.
right. Yes.
It wasn't just talking about how safe the car is. It was also talking about how you can run better. It was also talking about that why this feature is important in a car from the customer perspective.
Yeah.
So I think those have given me some, aspects that I think that the food industry is very focused on the food safety,
Mhm.
and this has downgraded a little bit the
Yeah.
position of the quality management system and quality. And in my view, we have to upgrade that and ensure that the food safety is always in place. But it's through those collaborations. I see segregation a lot in the food industry where we talk about food safety and quality. Even when we go to the conferences, you see all people are coming from food safety and quality department, and I always question this: why is that
Yeah.
food safety and quality not the responsibility of everyone? Do we not say that at some point? Do we want to ensure that this engagement are just more than that? We need to have people from HR coming here. We need to have people from you know um, operations coming here, from logistic coming here, because in order to escalate, in order to have a breakthrough improvement, you need to do something different than that. So that's. I hope I answered your question.
Good. Yeah, you did.
You did. Shahram, I feel like we should talk more. I could totally nerd out with you. Because after being in food, there was that gap. And when you talk about it being such a stronghold in the automotive industry, I saw that firsthand because when I did my master's in quality management, it was with Eastern Michigan. And of course, being in Michigan, I was the only food person in the program. And I think there was a healthcare person and everybody else was automotive.
Yeah.
But this was so embedded in what they did. So when we talked about even like pure SPC, I say pure because of course the food industry has their own version of it. That was designed for business efficiencies.
Yeah.
And I think we forget that, we use it now just for like, are we in spec? But really it has this much bigger, broader application, even a chart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so many of the principles that we try to apply just in like one function, like you said, they were designed to be really broad.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
makes me wonder about like, what do we sacrifice for long-term success if we're not willing to kind of look and see how it could apply across the business?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, Shahram, when you even say that sometimes the way we talk about QMS systems, and only using QMS systems, for example, food safety, or sometimes for spec, if we're running within spec, having a QMS system, that it downgrades the QMS system. I agree with that, because we are not using, like you said, it from a holistic standpoint. And so that downgrades what we can get from the actual system. And when we talk about long-term success, right, it's almost like right now, the food industry, we're focused right here, and I feel like the industry is starting to push into other areas, and organizations who, are looking ahead are starting to think about, how do we use SBC, right, for business? How do we use our quality management system for really business process control? But I would say we're definitely behind, and others who have worked in other industries like yourself see where other industries have kind of already pushed the path forward and are getting great benefits from doing that. We're just trying to help influence the food industry, right, to come along, because we know our work lives, right, can be so much easier. Our relationships across functions can be so much easier. There's a lot of things from firefighting to-dos on our list. If we had a holistic quality management system, will be off of our list, and we can actually think about something that is going to push us forward, versus like these fires that keep coming up.
Absolutely, and I think it's going to be a journey. It's something that it needs to come through the years, but it's important that the journey starts. And I think there are elements in the food industry that have helped. Certainly, GFSI has helped in order to have a benchmark that you have more like a holistic view than the traditional view.
Yeah.
Food safety and quality. It looks at the system, and it's something that is really important for everyone to see from the system view, from the really holistic quality management. But at the end, I think we should all think differently, in my view, about the food safety. We should really embed and focus on the culture. If you think about the culture, for example, we talk some of those elements that I talked, 3 or 4 of those elements are really comes back to culture, engagement, relationship management, and all of that, leadership, responsible leadership, and all of that. So it's really the era that we focus on culture. It's the time that we have to talk about the importance of a stakeholder, engagement. It is the time that, in addition to having a very good, solid food safety, programs, in addition to having a very good, solid HACCP plan or food safety plan, we need to ensure that the cultural elements are there, or without that, we can't succeed. So certainly, it should be, in my view, the approach, and it should be a different focus that has been in the last 20, 30 years in order to provide a different result. We have different metrics around the world for the food safety. One of that is, for example, number of recalls. And if you look at the number of the recalls in the last 10 years, they probably, at least I would say in the US, they probably have been steady. Perhaps the time that we were in COVID may be different. If you exclude that, it's been steady. So, if you look, we need to basically emphasize more. And the situation is very dynamic. The regulation is changing. The requirements are changing. So as we think about that, having a solid, wholesome quality management system that is adaptable, that is flexible, is very important.
Mm-hmm. Shahram, you're speaking our language, right? Because at Catalyst, we focus a lot on the culture part of food safety culture. And sometimes, we run into people and they're only focused on, well, let's get the quality management system up and running, or how can we build out these SOPs, or does everyone know the process that's there? But if you don't have these culture elements and in the skills to be able to communicate, build relationships, right, work across functions, break down silos, if you don't have those skills, you'll find yourself in a situation saying, well, we have this process or we have this technology, but we're not seeing any improvements because they haven't actually been focused on the culture part of it.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad that we're talking the same language. So because I'm very passionate about that. I would like also in our conversation to talk about the modern quality management system, how the quality management system today may be different than 10 years ago. The principles that I mentioned, it's at the core, it's principles. They are at the core of any food safety quality management system. But I think there's also a difference today to view a food safety quality management system versus 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, because of the changes that we see in the environment, because how much the environment have evolved because of the revolution that we have in the data. So I wanted to suggest that we talk about the modern food safety quality management system and see if that works on your side.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's dive into it.
I'd love to see like what things you see that are evolving more to be able to support not only where we are today, but really we have to look ahead.
Yeah.
Right. And think about what that framework looks like for us to be able to move forward, next decade and beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see the examples that I provide in the actual a food safety system, that it may be existing in a small plant or it may be existing in a big corporation. But essentially, if you think about the role and the value of the food safety and quality management system, it's more around problem solving, and it's around finding the issues, making sure the issues are resolved, and that is a traditional view. So the modern quality management system, or the view that in the future we really need, is being proactive. So I would say that the value proposition for the food safety and quality management system should change from, rather than firefighting and just reacting, to be even problem solving, and also going beyond and start predicting and being proactive. So that's from the value standpoint. It's important. So I would say a component of the modern quality management system is the value proposition is changing, is evolving. Another aspect is the quality management system should be across the ecosystem, should be across from really an end-to-end system. And I think that currently, in many cases, quality management system is focused in one area. You can't be successful if you don't have a supplier quality management system. You can't be successful if you have a customer feedback system. So you really have to look at the whole chain in order to be successful. Some of these protocols wouldn't be successful at the higher level even. For example, think about traceability. Traceability is a system that is around supply chain. So if one component of traceability fails, the whole thing changes. The whole chain essentially fails.
Yeah.
So it's important to have that view from the scope standpoint. Another aspect is the governance of the food safety and quality management system. So traditionally, the governance is top-down. We have things at a higher level, at the leadership level, and then we deploy that. I think we should think about how we bring more democracy into the quality management system. And don't get me wrong, this is a journey. That doesn't mean that tomorrow we go and basically starting all kind of liberal approaches per se on the operations floor. That's going to be the journey, but that should be the goal. The goal shouldn't be always that these new processes, these new views of the quality, the changes that we bring on the quality food management system comes top down. It needs to be coming through some sort of flexible approaches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then another aspect that I want to mention is really looking at the strategy. Quality food safety has been the support of the business, should be the support of the business. But if you look at the future, it has to be part of it has to be embedded to be part of, not just supporting that. It has to be embedded. When we design, we have to design for quality. A lot of problems that we deal with the current food food safety challenges that is because of a bad design.
Yeah.
Because something was
Yeah.
designed wrong, and then you are the customer of that design now for years. So it's
Right.
very important that when we think about innovation, when we think about engineering, when we think about logistics, quality food safety is embedded into that. So
Mm.
if you think about value proposition, if you think about the scope end to end, if you think about the implementation strategy, and if you think about the governance, I think those are the aspects that a modern quality management system, a future quality management system, we're going to see. We have seen aspects of that, but we're going to see more and more. And
Yeah.
I think that probably opens up a very good conversation for us to talk about digitalization and innovation, because the traditional approach of gathering traceability data from the production floor with the paper is not going to work in this
Right.
era.
Yeah.
Or a customer calling you and then you just put that in an Excel tracker for the feedback. That's not going to work in this
Right.
era, because you can't be
Mhm.
predictive anymore with these.
Right. Right. That's exactly what I was going to ask. Like, as you think about, a modern QMS, or where we need to move to the future and to get to our goal, I want to talk about innovation, and if you see that the solutions we have today, will they fulfill that goal that we want to get to?
So that also is a journey. So certainly the solutions that exist today are, are are not sufficient.
Mhm.
The way that I look at that. But before I get there, I wanted to kind of set the stage as far as what are the solutions and how we should think about the quality management system, modernizing the quality management system, bringing the aspects of the digitalization, automation into that. I think the most important thing is to understand that a modern quality management system is not just about compliance; it's about bringing the value. As I talked about the value, and is a flexible system, and it's connected. So if you think about all the components of the food safety quality management system, in order to be predictive, in order to bring the value, you have to make sure that you have a good grasp of the data, and data management is really critical. That's why we cannot just rely, on the traditional tools. We have to bring more automation to gather the data, to analyze the data.
Mm.
The flexibility comes when you have the wisdom. If you don't have the insight and wisdom regarding what's going on in your facility, in your corporate, you will not be able to basically move. You will be always very conservative to move.
Right.
The willingness to move comes from knowing where you are, where you want to be, and what are the obstacles in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that only comes with gathering the data and analyzing the data and trying to predict what's coming ahead of you, so that you become more flexible, you become more open to change. So
Yeah.
you kind of remove or reduce that fear about the change. Um, so I think if you think about the benefits per se of the automation and innovations, there are a lot of benefits in order to bring those into the components of their food safety and quality. They bring transparency, they bring efficiency, they improve of the quality and food safety path. They bring down stress. So just imagine
Yeah.
um, in many sites in the past, we used to check the labels. Labels, believe it or not, are still one of the leading indicators for the recall, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So just imagine these two scenarios. In one scenario, which I think is still in many places, an inspector or an operation technician or a person that is working on the line goes and check one label or one bottle or one box every 30 minutes, every hour. And during that time, you have run many, right?
Right.
Now, replace that with a vision system, very the vision system. It can read the label properly, and you can still check it. You should still check it within
Right.
a period of reasonable period of time. But imagine that every box, every bottle, every packaging that goes, it basically gets scanned, and every time that there is something wrong and the capability is proved to be right, that determines that something is wrong, it moves that automatically out of the line. How much less stress do I have as a food safety quality manager, right? How
Right.
much
Yeah.
less, how much more transparency do I have? Everything now is checked. It's not just once every hour. How much
Right.
efficiency do I have? Do I really need to stop the line, for example, to get one product out of it if I needed to do that in the past? So, it's to the benefit of all in order to bring, and that was just an example mainly on the automation.
Yeah.
Um, but I think when we talk about the quality management system, modern quality management system, future of quality management system, without bringing the automation, without bringing the digitalization, without gathering the data, without analyzing the data, and without having tools in order to work on all of these, we won't be successful in the future. Perhaps we won't even be successful now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really great example around automation and this collection of data, because you're right. I mean, the top recall that we have in the States is around allergens and is based off of the label, like labeling allergens. And just thinking about, the examples of needing to check the label multiple times and the times that I've had a very good vision system, that if someone were to load the wrong cartons, the equipment is going to kick it out. Just thinking about what even my operations team, the task that they're doing, right, is so different if you have that automation system and the information that's collecting versus if your operations team is needed to do checks more frequently because there is no automation there. And then that frees them up, right, to work on other things, to do other things, to focus on other things, to really lean into predictive, processes versus right now, right? And only thinking about and collecting the data right now. And I think that's a different shift in mindset, but it's also a shift and that leads, I guess, to a shift in priorities of we need to have more automation, more automated data collection, even for our teams, so that we can focus on bigger holistic, things within our facilities, but even within our corporate locations, right? Because our corporate staff, they're trying to figure out this data. It's so much easier when a system is sending the right data versus, an operator writing down information in a spreadsheet, uploading it, right? Someone's trying to manipulate the data to figure out what's going on. Even just that time, right, helps us function better as an organization.
And I think that, Tia, what you bring up is one of those steps that when we think about kind of this modern quality management system, or even like, I'm going to say pure quality management system beliefs, one of the steps that we often miss is the quality planning, which is part of the business planning of how that all works. And even when we think about vision for a label, like, right, we know we have systems today, so that can actually be programmed in. So when I have a line change, I have to tell what we're running, and I check labels, and I have all of the pre-flight checklist right here, so that even the vision system label check down here is actually just a courtesy because we've set everything up right. And so when we start thinking about like how we build all of those, Shahram, like you said, like it's all about prevention and understanding how do we build that in so we don't have the failures later. And that is a balance because we can't do it all at once. And so I think labels is fantastic as an example because it does create so many additional issues that we know over time, like what we've seen with recalls. That might not be the approach with everything, but that's why the quality planning step that often gets missed is such a critical part of that.
Yeah. I think another thing too, as you were talking, Shahram, that comes to mind just around automation and data collection is that your QMS system, even if you were to purchase technology, it's not going to do anything for you if you're not inputting data, right? If you're not basically using the system. And I love your approach of, we want to use the system, we need to get this information, but how do we automate it in a way that's not going to drain our business, right? That's not going to drain the resources that we have. And I think that's one of the I would say problems with onboarding a QMS system that I've seen organizations have, where they want this QMS system, they onboard it, but they really don't have the automation to fuel this data, or even honestly the staff to collect this data, to put it into the QMS system. And then it just, at that point, it's just a bill for the organization, and people are trying to figure out what is the value of it. But it's because, to the points that you're talking about, Shahram, they haven't actually built the principles around it to make sure that they can use their quality management system holistically.
Absolutely. That's certainly a prerequisite. During the conversation, you also talked about some challenges, and I would like to touch on that. I would like to talk about that. And also you mentioned regarding the planning, quality planning. So I wanted to talk about quality planning, and also in general about the wave about digitalization and automation as it pertains to the food safety and quality. If you look at your food safety and quality system, I think one of the advice that I have is very important to plan for it. And what I mean by planning for it is understanding where you are and where you want to be. I mean, you can call it a roadmap, you can call it a vision, you can call it a 5-year plan, however it fits better. But it's important to have that planning when it comes to the automation, digitalization, and innovation. So I think if you think about your quality management system and you have not have a roadmap already about how to digitize it, how to innovate that, or put innovation as it pertains to the data collection and automation into that, how do you even thinking about automation of the tasks that help to the food safety and quality? That's probably a miss. So quality planning of digitalization and automation and innovation should be already existing. Now, that's just at the planning level, but it's very important, because if you don't plan for it, you're not going to get anywhere. And if things come, it's going to be just based on reaction. Something fails, and you think that you need to have vision system because it failed last time. So, but why not planning for going to the vision system before it fails, right? So planning is very important in the area of digitalization and innovation and automation. So I would call it thinking strategically and making plan around that. Another aspect is you should communicate that roadmap. That roadmap should be, coming back to our conversation about quality management system, that engagement, that roadmap should be developed with the engagement from the leadership, with the engagement from the stakeholders, with the engagement from the peers, and ensuring that the communication aspect is there regarding that roadmap is very important, because roadmap can always can be developed, but it can often just stay on the paper and never turn into the action. So the change management portions of that is really, really important. I would also say that coming to the conversation of challenges, it's very important to be flexible when it comes to the area of automation, when it comes to the area of digitalization because the solutions are not comprehensive yet. So
Yeah.
we, as let's say, I coming from the industry, I'm the recipient of the solutions that another part of the industry is developing. And those solutions, in my view, right now, are not completely mature. Everyone is trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a couple of years or so in order for those solutions to test themselves,
Mm.
to put them into the actions, and then you can find between those solutions the one that fits you and your organization better. So it's important to be flexible. Don't expect perfection because that does not exist simply right
Mm.
now.
Yeah. It's
But
true.
at the same time, the advice that I have as a quality leader, as a food safety leader, I think we have to make the decision. I think it's important to make the call. We shouldn't be frightened that when the solutions are not perfect, we do not implement those.
Yes.
So we can't be reactive. We have to make the call. We have to move further. In my view, a company that has chosen a tool that is working 80% or 90% of the time is much better than a company that has not chosen a tool because
Yeah.
that company is going to evolve at 80%, take it to near 100% very soon, and the other company is just hasn't started. A lot of
Yeah.
this work around digitalization, transformation, automation is a change management portions of that. Is to have the organization ready, have the organization adopted to this new ways of work. So starting, even when the perfection doesn't exist, it's um, is a better approach, is a
Right.
better strategy in my view than just wait for the perfection to come because we don't know when the perfection comes.
Right. That's such a good point. You know, I talk to people and they have some amount of system, and it's like, well, focus on your system, what you have today, right? Don't purchase a new system right now. That's okay. Focus on what you have right now and make it the best that it could be for your organization, and then make another decision, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's really great advice because sometimes we find ourselves stuck
Yeah.
where we are versus like actually saying, okay, let's make a decision based on the knowledge we have today. Let's work with it, and if we need to shift in the future, then we'll shift in the future.
Another aspect, Tia, to your point, is the people aspect, is the
Mm-hmm.
culture aspect. As we think about quality culture, as we think about the QMS and engagement and making sure there's a team-based approach, I think the digital literacy education around the skills that is needed in that space is very important. So, a system can never succeed without the components to be skilled
Right.
about that. And,
Mm-hmm.
people are one of the most, if not the most critical aspect of any system that relies
Yeah.
on people. So, we are talking about a new generation, a generation that fortunately are more advanced in this area.
Hmm.
And, that's going to help us down the road. And I think we have to bring more education. The concept of automation, the concept of digitalization, the concept of the AI needs to be trained, needs to be, you know, brought up as a top training point, top education point, in my view. And it is important to bring that into the team because again, it's very important for them to understand it and to be the advocate of that. And that only comes with the education.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we are in this place where digital natives, we call them the digital natives, right? My kids are part of that, and there's others too who they've never known life without this type of automation and access to apps
Mm.
and information.
Yeah.
And that's part of, as we look at systems, like embracing that versus being afraid of that.
Yes.
And how do we leverage what they bring to help our systems get even better? Because the things that might be, like for me, harder to think, how do those fit together? To them, it's second nature because that's
Right.
all they've known.
Yeah.
And that can be really powerful as we think about kind of how do we move forward with these systems to support us even better.
Yeah. So, Shahram, I'm curious, and I know our audience is thinking that, yes, I need to do more with my QMS, or I want to onboard a QMS. Where should they start?
I think they should start from the principles, and that kind of a guide rail that you can measure how your quality management system is principle based, how much is principle based. So I think I would start from looking at those seven factors that I named, and I would look at those and see if the quality management system is embedding those into the sense of the designing execution of that. I mean, Jill, you mentioned about the quality planning. I think it's important. We all know those four important aspects of the quality planning, control, assurance and improvement. So I would start from there and ensure that those aspects are bold and are consistent in the food safety and quality system that we have.
Yeah.
I can't emphasize more about the culture and those, non per se, technical, but in fact, I would say perhaps maybe more technical aspects of, culture and soft skills and all of that.
Yeah.
So that's very important to look. After that, in my view, it's important that you modernize your food safety quality management system, make it connected, make it flexible, and also create a roadmap for your future. That has the digitalization, that has the automation, that has innovation into that.
Yeah.
And start with having a plan, communicating that plan, bringing the stakeholder into the game. And I would also provide one trick, maybe you call it, or one extra advice, and that is find something that is very important for the organization, that is bothering the organization, that is wasting a lot of resources. Help them with your wisdom, with your food safety quality knowledge to resolve that.
Yes.
That should be, from the priority standpoint, the first priority.
Yes.
Once you resolve that, you bring the trust of the organization. You are deemed as a helper. You are deemed as someone that not only helps, but also the food safety and quality management system also brings food safety and quality management to resolve the issues.
Yes.
That is very important. Something that is very critical for the organization from the strategic standpoint. It lands at the high, and then you have the influence to change it. You can change it. Be pioneer to do that. Once you bring the trust, then you can deploy the rest of the strategic imperatives that may be in your plan but not in their plan.
Yeah.
Easier to implement.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We tell people to be a catalyst, right? Like start that fire where you are. And many times we talk about it in terms of like you need the skills to be able to influence, to build trust, to build those safe spaces. But you're absolutely right. Like that's the path to go down, so that you can have this trust within the organization, so you can continue to embed yourself right in other areas of the organization.
Yep, that's, I love that because that's all about part of the servant leadership as well.
Yeah.
Like when we're helping others solve what are the issues that are really frustrating and holding them back, inherently that will flow into quality and food safety functions as well. So when we figure that out and work more collaboratively, that's setting the stage for all of these parts that you've talked about today, Shahram. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, our hour goes so quickly.
Yeah, I feel like we can like nerd out on this topic,
I know
for hours.
we didn't even get to talk about CPKs yet, and like that's my jam too. So
Well, happy to come back anytime and then talk about that for
we
sure.
might have to, because I think that's one of the most underutilized metrics that organizations should be using.
It's true. It's very true.
But that's just me. So, oh, Shahram, it has been fantastic having you on. Thank you for gosh, if you're on here, hopefully you've been able to get through all these nuggets of wisdom, the 7 principles, and even these pathways to have success as you think about how do we support bigger, broader within our organization to set the stage for how QMS can be valuable as we look ahead in the future of our businesses.
Yeah. And like Shahram said, this change is coming, right? Like being more proactive and therefore having more automation. Our technology, systems and businesses that are out there, that's the path they're working towards. As you're thinking about your own culture, your own business, you want to be ready when those solutions are available. They're still out there, right? You still should be using the solutions we have. They might not be perfect. But when we talk about the really taking the strategic approach and the planning that's a part of it, incorporate those pieces as a part of your strategy for the future. You want to be ready when the businesses are ready, when your business is ready versus being behind, right? And there's solutions out there, but you have to have these automation pieces. Well, if you haven't been investing in it over the years, it's a lot harder to get there in the future.
Very well. JLT, I want to appreciate you for inviting me. It was an honor to be in your program and be the guest here. And it was great. I hope that your audience enjoyed the conversation that we had. And I'm sure that you both are the true advocates of quality management system in the future podcast that you have. And again, I appreciate you, and I hope that I could add some insights and thoughts into what your audience had at the start of the session.
Absolutely. Thank you. And to our audience, we'll be back next week, same time, same place, talking about how leadership, right, is a huge part of what we do every day, including quality management systems. So join us again next week, and we will see you all later. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.